Well, hello again, and I am so excited to be back here at this location under the stars. Now, you may remember a few weeks ago, I was at this gorgeous old abandoned grain silo, and I did a little bit of filming there, and I've come back there tonight. Now, what I'm actually doing here is sort of piggybacking on from last week's episode where I did the panoramas up at Mount Hope and Suicide Rock. Now, remember how I said to you guys that I was impatient and I couldn't wait for the moon to come, and I went up there and shot that anyway. Well, what I've done, I've come back here to this location to shoot some more panoramas under moonlight. So tonight there's a 33% crescent moon over there in the sky, and that's all I need to light this up fantastically under the night sky. So we're in the summer, January, here in Australia. There's no Milky Way core, but there's some fantastic sky up there. The Southern Cross is blazing in all its glory. So I'm going to show you what I'm doing. I'm going to shoot a number of panoramas, a number of different focal length lenses. So let's get into it. Now, one of the things I've mentioned already a fair bit in the last few videos is inspiration and passion for what you do. And you know, I want to push through with that theme a little bit more tonight, because I'm here, it's actually turned quite cold. Middle of summer, it's been really stinking hot, and yet tonight it's very windy and quite cold, which I don't mind at all because it's a break from what we've had. But you know, I really want to push myself. I want to get out here and do some things that I don't do a whole lot of in my other general nightscapes. For example, people have been asking me at length, what is there to shoot in the night sky when there's no Milky Way core? So here we are in January, there's no Milky Way core to be seen, but there's some other stuff here, and I'm pushing through with the panoramas. So as you can see behind me, this gorgeous old silo, it lights up beautifully, and with that little bit of crescent moon, it's just enough. And the other thing I love about that, it's off on an angle. It's not lighting it front on, so it's giving that side light, which I really appreciate. So what I'm going to do now is run you through my compositions and how I'm going to put this together. Now, I mentioned the crescent moon, so there's a great little app called Clear Outside, and when you fire it up, you press current for your location, and it gives you the main purpose of this actually is to work out cloud cover. Now, hopefully you can see that there's actually zero cloud cover at the moment. Here I am right here, and you can see when it has green bars across the top, that's good. If it goes into red or orange, that means you've got cloud cover. It lists the cloud cover via whether it's low cloud, medium cloud, or high cloud. And I think that's a fantastic thing. But the other thing it tells you is how much of the moon is visible. It tells you when the moon rises and when the moon sets. And I think it's absolutely fantastic. Clear Outside. It is a free app, and I would strongly suggest that you get a hold of it. Alright, so here is our first composition, and what I've done, I've got my Nikon Z6 with a Sigma Art 35mm f1.4 lens. I've set that to f2.8. Now I'm shooting this 10-second shutter speed at ISO 6400. That's fairly bright with that moon, but I wanted to get a lot of detail, and I did a tiniest bit of light painting just at the front because the moon was sort of side on, and just to fill in the bit at the front. Now what I did, I shot 4 rows. So I did 4 shots on the bottom row, 4 shots on the second row, then I did 5 shots on the third row, and I did 6 shots on the fourth row. Why did I do that? Because what I wanted to do is not miss out on the top corners. So I tend to do that sometimes where I'll overshoot a little bit on the top row, particularly the top row, because when you do your panorama stitching, it curves around and you often lose that bit. And I was seeing nice constellation. I didn't want to lose it. So this 35mm Sigma lens is fantastic, and I really like what I'm seeing on the back of the screen, and I reckon that'll come up an absolute treat. So my second composition, I walked around the back of the building. Now around the back here, the crescent moon is actually all the light that I need because it's a little bit more front on. Still fairly much to the side, but there's a lot more light around there, so I didn't need to use any light painting of any sort. I've left my Sigma Art 35mm f1.4 on, and I've also, you'll notice I've got my camera set into a landscape orientation. So I'm shooting multi-row panoramas, but I'm shooting in a landscape orientation. Sometimes I will flip the camera around to a portrait orientation, but most of the panoramas I shoot are in landscape. I know that's different to a lot of you guys, but that doesn't really matter as long as you're getting the results that you want. Now, this same shot was 4-row, multi-row panorama. On the bottom, I've got 6 shots. On the next row, I've got 6, then I went to 7, and then I went to 8. So again, for the same reason, I want to make sure I overshoot a little bit on that top. And I love the look of this. It just seems to have a lot of dynamics. For this one, I dropped the ISO down a little bit, but it's still a 10-second shutter speed, 35mm focal length, and I'm using my remote control trigger, I don't know if you can see that there, for all of these shots, so I don't have to touch the camera and I don't have to set 2-second timers or anything like that because I'm using the wireless remote, the Yongnuo RF603s, which I've mentioned heaps of times. They are fantastic. Makes it really quick to shoot these panos. I can just go click, move it around, click, and so forth. Anyway, this one looks great and I absolutely love how this has come up. Now you'll also see that I shot using a 20mm focal length lens, and I took quite a number of images with that focal length as well. So you can see that I've taken these in a very similar manner to the previous ones that I showed you. They look great as well. I just wanted to experiment a little bit with different focal lengths, and in fact that's one of the reasons I wanted to come out here tonight, just to give a few different lenses a go. And you can see there all the different images that I've shot with that lens. Now you'll also see here I've set the white balance for all of these shots tonight at 5000 Kelvin. Now the reason I did that is because when there's a moonlight, it changes the colour of the sky, changes the colour of the landscape, and I wanted to warm up the white balance to accommodate that, and I think it looks pretty good. I'm pretty happy with how that looks. Now one of the things I wanted to do whilst coming to this location was to try out some different focal length lenses to shoot some of the nightscapes tonight. So I've used the 20mm lens, I've used the 35mm lens on those panos, and I also got out my Nikon 50mm f1.8. And you might remember back in that video I referred to earlier, I spotted a lone tree sitting up in the paddock. Now, you can't see it, it's over there in the dark, but I went over to that tree and decided, well, let's have a go at that tonight. So I put my 50mm lens on, and the first thing I did was shoot a stack of 15 images in a portrait orientation. I set the lens at f2.2 at ISO 5000 and 6-second shutter speed. And I did 16 stacking for noise reduction in Sequator, and then see how that one comes up. Then I did another multi-row panorama, and you're not going to believe this, I shot 38 exposures back to a horizontal landscape orientation, and I just went across. I think there's 4 rows, 38. I don't know how that number adds up. I just kept shooting, and you know, that's just what I do sometimes. I get into the zone, and this is a little bit about what I was talking about earlier. It's about this enthusiasm for what you do. You know, I would not have a clue what time it was at the moment. It's probably about 1 a.m. because I've been out there in that paddock looking at that tree, trying to angle up where the Southern Cross, and by the way, I shot it with the Southern Cross up there behind it. At this time of year, the Southern Cross is quite low down, so with the 50mm, I was able to get it in the composition. Now, the other lens I brought out with me tonight is the Nikon 85mm f1.8. So I wanted to use that alongside the 50mm f1.8. Now, these are both the Nikon G series lenses. They're quite a budget price, and a lot of you guys will have them. Along with you guys who shoot Canon, you'll have the 85 or the 50mm f1.8, and your Sony shooters as well. And I don't discount using lenses like this. Now, problem is tonight, I ran out of time to use the 85. The moon set. It took me a lot longer than I thought to shoot all those other images. But nonetheless, this year I'm going to spend a fair bit of time experimenting with these longer focal length lenses, because I think we discount a lot of things without even trying them. You know, I hardly ever shoot these days with a 14mm lens because I prefer the 20 and the 35, and now I'm going to look at the 50. You know, this is what I want to do. I want to stretch the boundaries of the possibilities. It's no use just doing the same thing all the time. But anyway, all of those shots I shot tonight, love for you to have a look and let me know what you think. All right, well, another great night out here under a brilliant night sky comes to a close. But you know what? It's only January and I'm getting so excited already. I'm probably getting a bit carried away. I've got to pace myself. I've got a big year coming up. And you know, one of the things I really want to encourage you guys to do is to experiment. You know, there's no one set of settings in your camera and no one lens that is the only lens. There's so many things. A lot of you got these lenses laying around. Give them a go and see how you can come up with some really awesome images. All right, thanks very much. Look forward to reading your comments down below. And if you want to subscribe to the channel, if you like this type of content, then please do that. I'd be rapt if you did. And until I see you next time, have a great day. See you later.